Blue Rings of Kool, a short story. There were 3 mules, all of them named Sam, Sicilians, mafioso. Everybody said they were mafioso. Anyway, there were 3 guys named Sam Mule, each of them cousins in a complicated Sicilian sort of way. I couldn't distinguish between Sicilians and Italians. There was a low-grade pinball and pool room near the railway station called the Green Dream, because the interior was painted a nauseating lime green, top to bottom. It was run by an American named Lou. It was low-grade in the sense that it attracted known troublemakers sometimes, and so from time to time the local gendarmes would turn up, 2 or 3 of them all in blue, and they could walk into the Green Dream and take names. Just take names. It seems they were entitled to take names. I was told as a kid that the cops can ask for your name, where you're going, and where you've been, and nothing more. They would round up the patrons of the Green Dream from time to time and write down their names in a little book. And one day, the gendarmes walked in and they lined up the 3 mules. "What's your name, son?" "Sam Mule." "And what's your name?" "Sam Mule." "And what's your name?" "Sam Mule." Everybody present, including Lou, jumped in to preempt any scepticism, saying, "It's true. They're all named Sam Mule." One of the gendarmes got caught on the possibility he was mishearing Samuel. No, Sam Mule. The gendarme wrote it down. As it happened, one of these mules' father owned a tobacco store in the same strip, although it was one of those stores only new Australians would frequent. It was a shop for wogs. It was mysterious. It had wire on the windows. I wasn't really sure what went on in there. But one day at the Green Dream, fiddling with pool cues, the mule with the father who owned the store was asking me if I was interested in a plan to steal some cigarettes. "What, from your dad's shop?" I wondered. "He'll claim it on insurance," the mule assured me. I declined anyway. I didn't know anything about insurance. However, at an ungodly hour a few weeks later, maybe 2 a.m, there was a rabid knocking at my door. It was this particular Sam Mule, of the storekeeping father. He was accompanied by a flustered gaggle of miscreants, including another of the Sam Mules, most of whom I knew, but didn't admit to knowing. They rushed in. They were carrying 3 big duffel bags. With no introductions, Sam emptied the bags on the floor. Dozens, hundreds of packets of cigarettes. "We're going to have to leave them here with you," the mule told me. "What?" He had some excuse. There was a hitch. Plan B was to stash them at my place. No one would think of looking there. And so it came to pass. Under my bed, in my wardrobe, in cupboards, I was suddenly storing a very large amount of contraband. I was to be rewarded with cartons of smokes in kind. The smokes, however, were all weird. There was no Marlboro, no Camel, no Winfield, no Peter Jackson, none of that. There were cartons and cartons of strange Russian cigarillos, French cigarettes, Italian, Greek, Turkish, brand names in Arabic squiggles, Muratis, Tabacci Italiani, Winstons, Portuguese Reds. And many of them, moreover, were unsmokable. More to the point, who was going to buy them? You might hope the mules had a plan, but no, they didn't. It turned out sales were slow. The cigarettes sat at my house for months. The robbery was reported in the local newspaper, I noticed, but the culprits were never exposed and the goods never recovered. Instead, for months, me, my girlfriend and the 3 mules and many others loitered at the Green Dream, smoking bizarre Czechoslovakian brands or Indonesian clove cigarettes, to which Lou, the host, violently objected. He swore like an American Lou. No one could take him seriously. In any case, reluctantly I was loaded with the gear. It was a Sicilian thing. The Sicilians lived in big, gaudy brick veneers. No one could work out how they got so rich. It wasn't from selling cigarettes. My girlfriend Rochelle and I smoked ourselves silly on weird cigarettes. People called Rochelle Broken Nose because one night at my place she walked into a wall in the dark and broke her nose. It was only slightly crooked. I liked it anyway. She had a fascination for American Indians, Broken Nose. That's another reason she was given the name. She read Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, and it changed her young adult life. It became impossible to watch westerns with her after that. She had not the slightest interest in the Australian native people or anyone else. She was absorbed in the romance of the Plains Indians. She made dream catchers. She lay on my bed one night smoking menthols and making, she said, blue rings of Kool. She was well rehearsed in New Age understandings of the peace pipe and sacred rites of tobacco smoke. Her blue rings of Kool were purveyors of spirit dreams, apparently. Kool with a K were cheap mentholated abominations, only smoked by teenage girls in Canada. Broken Nose said she wanted to live in a teepee. I said it didn't sound very practical to me. She assured me a teepee is a sturdy undertaking. Maybe so, I said, but who wants camping as a lifestyle? It was my first encounter with neo-primitivism. At the time, Broken Nose lived at home with her parents. They were Germans, Lutherans. I had no idea what a Lutheran was, but on first acquaintance they seemed both amiable and straight. Their poison was beer, lots of it, at room temperature, German style. They drank copious amounts of Vic Bitter, popularly known in my circles as the Green Death. The big event in their calendar was Oktoberfest. I should underline the problem here. They were drinking Australian beer in the German manner. That's not recommended. Rochelle was mortified by her parents' behaviour. Whenever I had to visit, they would sit me in the lounge room and ply me with beer and tell me how they had met and fell in love when they were in Hitler Youth League together. Then, once they had me slurring drunk, they would insist on going bowling. I escaped their prayer meetings, though. Would you like to come to a prayer meeting, perhaps? They asked. Rochelle intervened. He's not going to any stupid prayer meeting, she would say. She had long before become a nonconformist. If pressed, she'd say she believed in Wakantanka, the Great Spirit. Her parents had given up. They figured if they could get me to a prayer meeting, perhaps Rochelle might follow back to the straight path of Lutheranism and drop all that nonsense. Not likely. Somewhere she had heard the word animist and misused it profusely. I was sitting on the veranda one evening at Rochelle's, having a smoke with her father. Did you teach her this word animist? He asked in his German accent. No, I said. I'm not even sure what it means. He agreed. What are you smoking? He asked. Senior service, I said, and pulled out the packet to show him. There I was, young and skinny and smoking the official cigarettes of the British Admiralty. Don't mention the war. Her parents liked me, but mainly because I was better than Wayne. Wayne was Rochelle's long-term boyfriend. He was currently off the scene, but not for long. He came to visit me one afternoon unexpected. He wanted to discuss Rochelle. He was a truck driver, Wayne, interstate, long haul. He was unreasonably handsome. I could not but help notice how handsome he was, like a film star. A particular Australian handsomeness. Sandy blonde and square-jawed and ruggedly baby-faced all at the same time. But as thick as a whale sandwich, as they say. Wayne sat there and started sharpening a knife he had on him as we discussed Rochelle. Well, I thought, this is a complication. I opted to be diplomatic. Rochelle and I were, in any case, completely cured of exotic and continental cigarettes by this stage. I easily drifted into the background, but not before I came home one day and found that Rochelle and Wayne had helped themselves to most of the cigarettes still in my possession. That was awkward. I had to tell the Sam Mules. At first, they were keen to rectify things, but when I told them that Rochelle's rub was Wayne, they knew Wayne. One of the Sam Mules said, "Oh, him, he's a mad bastard." Yeah, I said. Dumb and dangerous. The three mules weren't dumb. They were desperados and Sicilians, but by this time they had moved on to other misadventures, which, thankfully, I avoided. It was generally a good thing to do favours for the Sicilians and clock up some credit, but it's far better and wiser to be a bystander if you can. I did salvage a dream catcher from the whole affair though, and left it hanging in my bedroom window where Broken Nose had placed it. No more the green dreams of the pool hall and endless runs of Elton John's Pinball Wizard on the jukebox and Lou swearing in American. I wasn't sure about Wakantanka or Lutherans. Lutherans at least had the good sense to believe in sola fide, salvation by faith alone. By some interpretations, this means you can commit heinous crimes like robbing your father's tobacco store and still go to heaven, all on the back of faith. Lutheranism worked for Rochelle's parents. Somehow they could drink huge volumes of Australian beer in the German manner and still bowl like champions. The Sicilians, being Catholic, believed on the contrary that only confession and the intercession of the Blessed Virgin would set things right at the end of the day. In either case, the odd thing was that they believed. They believed in things. My family didn't believe in things. We were normal. Normal people don't have to believe in things. I was a bit mystified when Rochelle first told me she believed in Wakantanka, for instance. My wonderment was, why believe in anything? Why not just be normal? Why walk right into complications? Why confuse the simple sunshine of the day? That was the question. Not why do you believe in a pervasive sky spirit, but why do you feel the need to believe anything at all? What is the deficit? I went to the first communion of the nephew of one of the Sam mules one time. One of those all-cement yards around the big red brick veneer and a fig tree. Mainly the event was in the garage. The reception, that is. Mountains of food and wine, grappa, home brewed, the piety of big families, mafioso, and abundant hospitality organised around beliefs. You mean the real flesh and blood of the real Jesus? Asked someone. This someone was agnostic. We were watching the aunties and uncles and cousins and nieces and grandmothers in full-scale Sicilian celebration. Real zest. That's what they believe, the agnostic said. This was shortly after the great cigarette heist. Sam, at the same event, told me quietly that the gendarmes had been at the Green Dream again. He was dressed up in a dicky suit and was being as pious as he could for the sacred occasion. Are they asking questions? I asked. Just taking names, he explained. I asked him what his dad would think if he found out that it was him that did the burg. Covered by insurance? I asked. Are you kidding? He said. He'd skin me alive.